Good afternoon, Year 10. Moving on to our next lesson with regards to converting with time, obviously leading towards work with distance, speed and time. Last lesson we looked at examples such as the top two here, which was converting from hours and minutes to convert it to a decimal hour. Okay, so for example, to convert 3 hours and 5 minutes to hours, we take our 3 hours because we know that's 3 full hours. So we are going to end up with 3 point something hours. We then take our 5 minutes. Now we know that to go from minutes to hours, we have to divide by 60. So we do 5 over 60. We're going to cancel that down to a 12th. Then we are going to put that through our calculators. So we will do 1 divided by our 12, and that will give us 0.83 recurring hours. So we end up with combining together our 3 hours and our 0.83 recurring hours to give us 3.83 recurring. It was all about that divide by 60. Okay, that was the key part to all this. You had to divide by 60 and work our way across. Quick second example. So we've got 0 hours and 25 minutes. So the 0 hours is nice and simple because we then know it's got to be 0 point, whatever your whole number is going to be at the start. The 25 minutes, you divide by 60. Okay, so it will become 25 over 60, which we can simplify to 5/12. And again, we go 5 divided by 12 into our calculators. That will give us 0.416 recurring this time. Remember, the recurring dot is really important. We combine that with our initial 0 hours in this case, so we end up with 0.416 recurring. Okay, but key part, really important, that divide by 60. Okay, now all we're going to do is look at going the other way. Slightly different, no more difficult. So, if we have, for example, 3.2 hours, we want to turn it into hours and minutes. Okay, now we know already I must have 3 full hours because it's 3.2. Therefore, my 3 can go in straight away. The difference this time, at the moment, I've got 0.2 of an hour. Okay, now if I want to convert from hours to minutes rather than dividing by 60, I'm going to times by 60 instead. So I take my 0.2, I times that by 60, that's going to give me 12. So that 12 becomes my number of minutes. So I end up with 3 hours and 12 minutes. So it's the times by 60 that's important. Okay, have a quick look at another one. 1.8 hours. I've got my 1, so I've got 1 full hour. Okay, I then take my point, my decimal hour. Okay, in this case, it's 0.8. And I'm going to take my 0.8 and I times it by 60 to give me 48. That now becomes my number of minutes. So I will end up with 1 hour and 48 minutes. Okay, last one, and I want you to have a go at a couple. 0.1 hours, so I take my 0, that becomes my amount of hours. I take my 0.1 of an hour, and I take my 0.1, and I'm going to times it by 60, and that gives me 6. That 6 becomes my number of minutes, so I have 0 hours and 6 minutes. Now this could be really, really important, guys, with the work that we do with speed, distance and time. We can only ever calculate with the decimal hour, okay? Whenever we're doing times and dividing, we've got to use the decimal hour. But when we give our final answer, especially if we are relating it back to time on a clock, we have to have it back into hours and minutes again, okay? So you've got to be able to work quite happily between the two. But this comes down to massively, the biggest part is we are now timesing our decimal part by 60 each time. You take your whole number, that's your amount of hours. You take your decimal part, we're going to times it by 60. There are 2 there for you to have a go at. I want you to pause the video now for me. I want you to have a go at those 2 questions, turning them from decimal hours into hours and minutes, and then we will go through them. Okay guys, right, let's have a look. So, 2.5 hours. We have 2 full hours. Okay, so that's going to come in to my 2 here. I then take my 0.5 of an hour, okay, and I take my 0.5, and because I'm converting my 0.5 hours into minutes, there's 60 minutes in an hour, so I'm going to times by 60. That's going to give me 30 minutes, so I'll end up with 2 hours and 30 minutes. Okay, second one, got to be a little bit more careful. Again, 4.3 recurring hours, and again that recurring dot is really important. First of all, 4 full hours gives me 4 hours in there. I then take my 0.3 recurring, make sure you use it as 0.3 recurring, so it's 0.3 recurring times by 60. Now if you are using your calculators, guys, if you've got a scientific calculator, some of them have got the recurring dots on, okay, on your calculator it will be a box with a little dot above it. If you haven't, okay, now the best way to get around this, in your calculator, I want to make sure you don't just type 0.3 times 60, that will not give you the right answer. Okay, I want to make sure if this goes into your calculator, you are writing 0.3333 and as many 3s as you can fit on your display times by 60. Okay, I want all of those written on. That will give you the best possible chance of getting the correct answer that you need. Okay, if you've got a recurring dot on your calculator, brilliant, make sure we use it. If you haven't, I want lots of 3s written in, then we're going to times it by 60. Okay, now this may well not give you quite the right answer. Okay, it might give you, for example, on this one, 19.999999998 or something like that. If we use the recurring part, please, please, please be careful. That should become 20. Okay, we've got to use a little bit of common sense with this. If you haven't got a recurring dot on your calculator, and please do try and find it because it will make your life much, much easier. Okay, we've got to make sure we type in all of our 3s, as many 3s as we can possibly fit in, to make sure we get the right answer out. Okay, should come out as 20, which will give us 4 hours and 20 minutes. Please go back through and rewatch the video again if you need to. If not, on to show my homework for me, please, guys, and attempt the worksheet attached.